Hi students, welcome all back. So last time we discussed about it was the introduction in the chapter regarding our chapter how do organisms reproduce. So last time we had discussed about what is sexual reproduction and about asexual reproduction and the difference between both of them. So then we discussed about characteristics of asexual reproduction. Today let us have a small look upon what are the advantages and disadvantages of asexual reproduction. Although asexual reproduction is very important regarding it is we can say it is simple and fast. It is very simple and fast process of reproduction. Okay, so but there are some disadvantages which we need to know. The disadvantages are many. Like we can see here, you may be aware about what is evolution. So in evolution we find that the variation, which is very important point in the evolutionary things. So as the evolution to take place, variation is very must. Variation is a small change which finally leads to a big change, so which produces new species from the ancestral species. So we have already species from them with the time, and due to the new geographical areas, geography or conditions, we can see the speciation which can take place. So it is the important factor in case of evolution. Okay, so this evolution is not possible. The process of evolution is not possible in case of asexual reproduction. Okay, a species consequently cannot adapt to changes in its environment. You understand? So number second we can see here, number one is evolution is not possible. Number two is asexual reproduction produces the identical organisms. We know this. Okay, so when it produces the identical organisms from generation to generation, in case of any defect in the parent, if we see there is any defect in the parent, okay, that defect can be also inherited in its progeny. Okay, so the defect remains, because see, when the defect is there in the parent only, that can be forwarded to the progeny. So this is also one of the disadvantage we see in case of asexual reproduction. Okay, so let us discuss what are the different modes of reproduction by simple organisms. So number one, we can study here fission. Then we can have fragmentation. Then we can have regeneration. Then we can have budding. Then we can have vegetative propagation. After vegetative propagation, the final thing that we are going to discuss is our spore formation. These are all the different modes by which the simple organisms reproduce by using the type of reproduction that is asexual reproduction. Okay, so what comes in the fission? Fission means here, let us discuss about fission. Fission is a mode of asexual reproduction. It is the simplest mode of asexual reproduction. In unicellular, we see this in unicellular. In case of unicellular forms of life, such as, for example, we can have different examples here. Amoeba. Okay. Amoeba. Paramecium. And other protozoa, some other protozoa. So these are the best examples we can study, where we can study the fission. That is very important, but is very simple asexual reproduction. Okay, fission, it leads to the creation of new individuals. Here in fission we can see it leads to the creation of new individuals. In the process of fission, the parent organism splits or divides to form two or more organisms. Fission of the two, it is of, we can discuss it. For example, we have amoeba here. This is the parent cell, okay? This is the nucleus and this. After some time, what happens when the cell is ready to divide? So DNA will also divide, nucleus will also start dividing. Then we'll be having a small, you see the cells start, will be having a shape like this. Nucleus is also dividing now, okay? Then finally we can have the shape like this. Then we got the two cells, two daughter cells, okay? This is how fission, that is binary fission, takes place in amoeba. So overall we can say that this fission can be discussed as under two headlines. Number one is binary fission. Number one is binary fission, and number second is multiple fission. Multiple fission, okay? Okay, so binary fission and multiple fission. Binary fission, we see the example as in case of amoeba. Amoeba we saw where a cell itself, it is the cell divides mitotically. So in mitotically means what? This nucleus is divided into two equal nuclei. Okay, the cell divides into two equal cells. Okay, so the best example here, what happened in this method, the nucleus first divides. Okay, first divides. So then after the nucleus is divided, we see the division of the cytoplasm also takes place. Okay, so then we have here the cell finally splits into two daughter cells, we saw here, okay? Then the examples, best examples for this binary fission we can see in case of, if you see the microbes like bacteria, they are all dividing by this binary fission. We have the yeast. The examples we can see here, the bacteria, yeast, and Eugenia. Okay, these are the examples of binary fission which we see in case of plant, means other than animals. But among the animals, we have the examples here. Like amoeba, and paramecium. These are the examples. These are all the examples of binary fission. Now let us have a small introduction about what do we mean by multiple fission. So in multiple fission, we find that many individuals are formed in a single individual. Okay, for example, we have a cell, we have a simple cell. This simple cell is having its nucleus inside. Okay, cytoplasm is there, and we have cell membrane also available. Okay, this is cell membrane. So what happens? This cell membrane, when the conditions are not favorable, the cell membrane is enveloped by, or it is covered by the cyst. Okay, this cyst is a hard material, a protective wall which protects the cytoplasm from the outer conditions which are not favorable for it. Okay, so with time what happens? Actually in the same cyst, in the same cytoplasm, the nucleus, it starts dividing. Okay, so meantime we will be having lot of nuclei inside the cyst. We can be having lot of nuclei. Okay, now what happens actually when the conditions again become favorable? This outside covering, which is the protective covering, it breaks down. It ruptures. So when it ruptures, it gives out all these small daughter cells. Now these are not only nuclei. These nuclei, they will be having the cytoplasm along with them. So they are the small mini cells. Okay. So this is the mechanism how multiple fission can take place. Now what happens actually, what are the different examples? The different examples we can see in case of plants. In case of plants we see in many algae, and in case of animals, the common example for this binary fission is, in case of animals we see the common example for binary fission is Plasmodium. Sorry, multiple fission, that is Plasmodium. This Plasmodium, it is the malarial parasite. Malarial parasite which leads to the formation of many daughter cells. So our next mode of sexual reproduction is fragmentation. In fragmentation, what we see, in case of multicellular organisms, we see this process in multiple cellular organisms. In some multicellular organisms, like we have Spirogyra. Like Spirogyra, what happens? It is a filamentous algae. What happens sometimes, like I'm going to draw it here. Okay, so its body is mainly it is formed of like this structure it can have. What happens actually sometimes the body, it breaks down into many pieces. Okay, these pieces, since they are the units of the parent body, they lead these fragments upon maturation, they lead to the formation of new individuals. These fragments have the ability to generate into the new fragments. So the best example we see in case of Spirogyra. Among the animals, we have the flatworms. So these are the we can see in case of plants, but in animals, the best example we see in case of flatworms. The body of which develops into two new individuals after it has been fragmented. That is due to the accidental things. Okay. The next mode of regeneration we are going to study is very important. That is regeneration. in regeneration is the ability of a fully differentiated organism to give rise to new individual organisms from its body parts. In some organisms, like we have planaria, here example, planaria, PLA. In case of planaria, what happens? Suppose this be the let this be the parent body. Sometimes what happens, this planaria, it is having the capacity that it is body pieces. Okay, any part of the body has the ability, capacity, it can lead to full individual. Okay, okay, so this is the middle piece, this here and this also here can form a new individual by the process called a regeneration. So finally it can develop into. So the example, simple example, in case of, we see the planaria is the best example for this, but we have many examples like hydra also. So that's this hydra also, once it is cut into the pieces, it can grow into the complete organism. Regeneration is carried out by specialized cells in that organism which proliferate and make large number of cells, thus undergoing the changes to become various cell types and tissues. So one cell was there, like we had the mother cell. This mother cell then only produces the cells which give rise to the body organs, like we saw in case of planaria. Okay, the next mode of reproduction we will just study is budding. Okay, so budding. We are discussing about the importance only because what are asked in the exam, not only exam, for our knowledge purpose also we should know. In budding, what happens actually, we have the best example for budding. Here is hydra again. Let us take the example of hydra. In this, a small part of the body of the parent grows out to form a bud-like structure. We have a bud, which is a small outgrowing from the parent body, which then detaches from the body and becomes a new organism. Hydra reproduces commonly by this hydra, it is reproducing by budding only, okay, using the regenerative cells, which we saw in case of regeneration. Okay, a bud develops at an outgrowth. For example, let me draw the picture here for our understanding purpose. So we have the hydra, we have the parent hydral body. Okay, on this body a small bud-like structure is visible. Okay, let's draw the same body here, but this bud is now growing out. Okay, then this is our bud. Okay, so after some time it starts becoming a little bit mature. Okay, with time this bud is detached from the parent body. Now we have a small subling, that is the new hydra. Okay, this hydra can be called now as a new individual, new hydra, which separates from the parent body. So this is how budding takes place. When it is fully matured, what happens? The bud, when it is fully matured on the parent body, it detaches itself from the parent body and develops into the new independent individuals. So this was all about budding, which we see in case of Hydra. You have a small activity. In that activity, in your book it is available. You have to study the budding in yeast. Okay, so this it is an activity. It needs some material, for example, test tube, conical flask, cotton plug, yeast granules, and we need some 10 grams of sugar, then some water, salad, cover slip, dropper, and microscope. Here we can see it is a live process where we can see how the budding takes place in case of yeast. So since it was concerned to the budding, that is why this activity is found in our book. So, and we are in the lab, we will try to do it. So it is an easy process to study, and the best way how we can see this process of budding. Okay, now next important this mode of asexual reproduction is vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation means here new plants are obtained. We can find new plants. These new plants, they are obtained from the parts of old plants, old plants. Okay, like we can have stem, roots, leaves, and other body organs. Okay, so there are different ways by which we can study this vegetative propagation. For example, we have natural, and we have artificial. So natural here means the things, it is a mode of propagation, various structures like we can have the parts of the plant in this type of reproduction, or for example we can see some roots, okay, roots, stem, and leaves. So leaves, they take part in the natural vegetative propagation. If we see the natural vegetative propagation, which we can understand by taking the example of dahlia. Okay, dahlia, or we can say sweet potato. So not only these, we have many plants which undergo this vegetative propagation by using the roots. That is the important part of the plant. The adventitious roots become thick, swollen, and tuberous due to the storage of food. Okay, so what happens actually? Sweet potato we can have in our home also, and you may have seen the carrot, and you can have seen the turnip, and other. Okay, it's like we can have some other vegetables which we use in the house. But be careful, potato is a stem, it is not a root. Okay, so these, they help in vegetative propagation. So we take this part of this is actually the storage part of the plant, that roots. This storage is only because in the next season, this stored tissue, the food that is stored there, that can be utilized. So for the newly growing plant. Okay, then vegetative propagation in case of stems. If you want to study the stems, means we have the best example as potato. Okay, potato is one of the example. Then we have many types of stems, like we can have, let us discuss here, let's write it here, stems as the micropropagules. For example, we can have runners, suckers, and underground ginger-like strings, they are called rhizomes. rhizomes. Okay, then we have the tubers. Okay, then we have the bulb. These are all different ways, different types of stems which act as vegetative propagules. Okay, so we have the best examples for all of them, like we have runners, strawberry, then suckers also we can see somewhere, then rhizomes in case of ginger, okay, tubers in case of potato, bulb in case of onion. Okay, so by this, these are the commonly used vegetables in our house. Then vegetative propagation by natural vegetative propagation, that is natural vegetative propagation by leaves. Okay, leaves. Leaves. The best example here we can see Bryophyllum. Bryophyllum is one of the best studied example for where we can see the natural vegetative propagation by using leaves. The fleshy leaves of the Bryophyllum, this plant, so of course the tree of this tree, it bears some adventitious buds on the notches along the leaf margin. So for example, this is a leaf, Bryophyllum leaf. Okay, okay, on the notches we can see here small buds can be found which are growing on it. Okay, so these small buds, they lead to the formation of these are the buds. After they are detached from this leaf, they lead to the formation of new plant. So with this we have finished some important type, that is the natural vegetative propagation. In the next video we are going to see what is artificial vegetative reproduction, what are the different ways by which artificial reproduction is possible. Okay, so artificial means it is man-made. Here we are involved in this case. Man is artificially doing this type of propagations that we are going to study in the next video. So I hope all will come in that video. Till we are back, best of luck, see you. And my request to all my students is that you have to check in your textbook, NCERT textbook, whatever we read till now, you have to go line by line. Okay, see you, bye bye.